Today we're going to be talking about Lesson 9 of Family Seasons, Sabbath School lesson, Times of Loss. The hardest thing in loss, I think, is that when somebody comes to you and says, just turn to God, but it's hard to be hugged by a God that you can't see, by a God you normally can't hear, an idea almost of a being is very difficult. God is not necessarily a concrete thing to us. It's more of a energy or a person who's dealing with your mind. And when people say turn to God, and it just seems insufficient. And I don't know if any of you have experienced that. It can be sort of, okay, well, that's great. Satan's already trying to get you disconnected from God, and now people say, turn to this God that you can't see, you can't hug, that doesn't really, you can't feel the consolation a lot of the times. And what I think about this, and maybe you can join in this discussion, is that, yes, at this point in time, we can't see, hug, or usually talk with God. But He has people. He has representatives. He has us. And we can hug. And we can speak. And we can listen. And we can weep with those who weep. And mourn with those who mourn, as the Bible says. We can be God's arms and hands and voice and the tone of our voice and so on, that people desperately need in time. They don't need advice. I'm a big advice giver. I'm a case manager by profession. I'm a nurse. Do this, do that. You should be doing this. And, I have a sign in my office that says, I'm not bossy. I just know what you should be doing. It's hard for me not to advise. I've learned the hard way through my own experiences. People normally don't want advice. I asked my grandmother once, who was in her 80s at the time, I said, I noticed you're not giving me much advice. I was sharing some tough times with her, and she was saying, well, by this age, I guess I realized that people who need advice won't take it anyway, and the people who don't need advice don't need it. So what is the point? So I'm just suggesting that advice is usually not the best way to handle loss when we have friends and relatives who need God's hug and God's voice. We need caring hearts. And I think one of the benefits and things we can be grateful for loss in our lives and tough times is that it does build compassion. When I was young, I was very black and white. It was right or wrong. There was no gray, and I don't think I had much sympathy for people, but I do now. I have been through a lot in my life. Many things. In this past year and a half, my younger sister, my only sibling and younger sister died. My father died. His only sibling, my favorite uncle, died. A dear friend died. So I've had like 4 major deaths in the past year and a half. And it's not just the deaths. It's like all the medical stuff that happens before the deaths, because I'm a nurse, so I go with everybody, their appointments, and help them with everything. Then they die, and then you have all the financial issues afterwards. So I thought, boy, I'm kind of tough. I can take it, I have found out in the past year and a half I'm human. It knocked me for a loop. It really knocked the wind out of my sails. I really appreciated my friends who just listen to me. And I have one friend I will particularly note, that the definition of a true friend is this person who, when they called me, I said, I'm so busy with work, and my house is a mess, and I have company coming, and I don't have any food for them, and blah, blah, blah. And so she said, okay, well, I'll say goodbye. Then she called back after a little while and said, well, I'm going to come over. And I thought, what about, I'm too busy, do you not understand? And so she came over and cleaned my entire house and brought food for my company while I finished my work. Is that a true friend? Not, can I help you some way? I mean, she just didn't even ask. She goes, I hear the need, I see the need, I'm pitching in. That's God's hands, that's God's arms, that's a true friend. And I would challenge us all to think in terms of that rather than kind of we offer these sentiments, but a lot of the times we don't really do what needs to be done.